22nd. Before we start the regular part of the meeting, just want to take a moment of silence for David Morganelli. David was a good friend of all of us, a tremendous family man, husband. He loved the town of Milford, and he'll be sorely missed by all, especially his family, and he was a valuable member of the Finance Committee. So at this time, I'll ask for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. All right, first item is the warrant. Brian?
I'll move.
Motion by Brian.
Second.
Seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Next, the minutes of September 8th. Motion by Brian. Bill.
Second.
Seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Invitation to speak. Would anyone like to address the board? Yes, sir. Yes, Jamie. Go ahead.
It's Jamie Wheelock from Cuniff Ave. I don't know if anyone's going to talk tonight about the live entertainment issue, but I guess
That's gonna be on the agenda. We're gonna,
you have to talk before the whole meeting to,
but
if you
why
want
don't
to be
you
heard.
say a few
So
comments? Go ahead.
I'll preface this by saying I was away that weekend, so I don't even know exactly how loud and crazy it was. I live a mile away from the tradesmen. I want to say that rock and roll has been annoying the grown-ups since the 1950s. And before that, jazz was annoying the grown-ups. And before that, there was a whole bunch of other music that was annoying the grown-ups. So I'm not too troubled by whatever genre issues are causing discomfort in the community. And the noise complaints issue is a tricky one too, because there are multiple regularly scheduled events all over town that I hear from my house. And so sound, I can hear the high school marching band play, I can hear the band shell in downtown Milford play, I can hear Hopedale's band shell play. I don't mind these things, these are all just the real world I live in. I heard some people on the radio talking about there's a nursing home near the tradesmen, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I would guess that when those people were younger, they probably went to a few rock and roll shows. I don't think being in having a nursing home near an entertainment place is pertinent one way or the other. I also want to say, I'm not sure police detail is necessary for ordinary business. I suppose under very specific circumstances, it might be useful. But otherwise, adults can probably cross Route 140 successfully at 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Maybe a few street lights or signs or a crosswalk would be worth looking into, but I think that's way overboard myself. I don't go to the tradesmen ever. I might have passed through the doorway to see what it is, but I don't have any particular, I'm not here in defense of the tradesmen specifically. I don't know them. I just think that the little things I've been hearing on the radio surprised me about how the whole thing went.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, our first scheduled appointment is with the building commissioner, John Erickson. John, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Okay, you've given us a lot of good information on different situations, part of the town, the actions that you've taken. Maybe you can start from there and then give your regular report, okay?
Yeah, I mean, the last several months we've taken care of, or not taken care of, we've addressed a number of problem properties in town. We've had complaints ranging from East Main Street, where there's several abandoned houses. Complaint came from a resident. One of them is an absentee owner. You know, it's somewhere in between the process of, somewhere in the foreclosure process. They've abandoned the house. We're able to successfully reach the property management company in that case, and they're scheduled in the next several weeks to take action on the overgrown conditions, the junk in the yard, the problems with the roof, you know, to make the place weathertight and safe again.
Johnny, that's Upper East Main Street, right?
That's Upper East Main Street, yes, 467, I think.
Okay.
And then several doors down, there's a property that had a fire in it around December. That property was...
Those are the two properties that I called you.
Yes, yes, and that second property was properly boarded up at the time. There's a property maintenance company that's taking care of the yard, mowing, trimming. That's not at all in the foreclosure process yet from all of my research, and I've reached out to that owner with no result yet. But that's, that's still on our active list to follow up with. But at this point, there's no active violation. It's the concern of a neighbor that it'll lead to a violation, and I spoke to that neighbor in person.
Okay. When you can ask a question, when you say that you notified the owner, right? What does that mean, to contact you within 14 days, 21 days?
Well, we've sent notice to their mailing address, which is, I believe, on that one, the 481 East Main Street, with no result. We work with the collector to see if she has any more updated information. The water company is actually a good resource. They help us a lot of times with, current addresses. But in this case, it hasn't progressed to where we found one yet.
Okay.
Moving around town, we had several issues on West Street, Lower West Street, 11 and I believe 12, two houses that were more or less across the street from each other. 11 West Street had a number of violations with the overgrowth, cars parking in the front yard, fence that was falling down. That's another property that is in the foreclosure stage. That one was not abandoned. The prior owner, I believe, was still at that residence, so we sent notice to them as the occupant. We sent notice to the lending institution that's in the foreclosure process, and we actually got results from both parties. The lender was far enough along where they passed it on to their property manager. By the time that property manager had contacted us, the owner had taken, not the owner, the occupant, I guess you would call him, had taken their own measures to bring it into compliance, because with the nuisance bylaw, unlike the general, not the general, but the zoning bylaw, the occupant is held accountable as well as the owner. So, it's very well-written bylaw and resource for us. So we had good success with that one. We're working, on a similar to the 481 East Main, across the street at number 12 West Street, we have an abandoned property that isn't yet in the foreclosure process. Somebody took measures to winterize it. There's notice on the door as such, but we can't reach anyone to take any measures with. And we'll continue on it, but we just haven't got there yet. And it's, it started off getting worse and worse over the summer. When I first started looking at it, it was really bordering on being a nuisance violation, and of course the growing season, continued the process and compounded the problem.
Can I just ask
Yeah,
question
go ahead, sure.
on that? I just wanted to ask you, because you're talking about the West Street property, and I didn't bring my papers on that particular site. Do you have the address of the people where they relocated to?
On 12 West Street now.
Okay, because I know they left out of state and they went to Virginia or South Carolina or something like that.
I think that was the 467 East Main Street property.
No, I'm talking about the West Street property as you're going up the house on the left. The one that I think you're talking about that was winterized and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the owner's left.
Yes.
And the bank hasn't started foreclosure, so you're in limbo.
Yes.
So the only thing I was thinking, John, I mean, if you can, get the address of the relocated owners, and then just file. Just go to court and file. Because even if people are out of state, they get nervous when there's court proceedings against them, and you'd be surprised how, you might, be able to get some reaction, and at least get some feedback. So, trying to think, I thought we had the address of the folks before. Does the tax collector have a forwarding address?
I will double check on that one, but
Post
that
office?
is the process that we follow, and
Yeah.
the reason 467 comes to mind is because we talked to the neighbor who was complaining and explained the situation of the family dynamics, and that the people relocated down south to Tennessee, North Carolina,
But the same
South
thing
Carolina.
at the 467?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
at 467, because
Okay.
I remember the conversation well. So but I don't have the answer on 12 West Street, but I'll,
Yeah,
follow up on
try
that.
and get the address, and, you know, if you can get the address, even, you know, if it's out of state, just file. You know, notice will go down there, you know, they'll get notice, they'll see, and I think if they see that there's a court proceeding against them, you know, whether it impacts them, you know, to a criminal extent, or even on a civil end, which may affect their credit report, we might get a little bit of response.
yeah, I will double check on that because that is the process that
Yeah,
we've
that's,
been.
I just wanted
Sure,
to
yeah.
raise that when we was talking about the West Street property.
No, John.
And it's
oh,
a very
absolutely.
difficult situation, you know, where
Yep.
you're in limbo there and everybody just walks away.
It is, it's very difficult, and I've,
So, you know, John, on that, I was gonna say the same thing, because, you know, work with town council, because someone boards up their house and goes away, they're not coming back in most cases, and I would hate to be a neighbor. You know, it doesn't take long for things to get deplorable, you know, and all that, so do whatever you can
Yeah.
to be proactive.
and I work
Yep.
close with town council on that.
All right.
Moving along to some other properties, 195 West Street was a business that had relocated. They relocated from 195 West Street, it's the old Wally Computer.
Oh, yeah.
They moved into someplace on an Commercial Way or in Industrial Park. As soon as I sent notice to them, more or less as soon as I did, within 2 weeks, they got back to me and they took care of the problem within a week, and it was also in the sales process. It's now owned by a new business owner. They've been to planning board, they're working on a site plan review, and they're gonna open up a business, a daycare center there. So that one went to rest fairly quickly.
We resolved the situation on Sunset Drive, right?
On Sunset Drive, yes, that was a tow truck situation. We went to court with them, I believe 2 Fridays ago. It was a Friday, and he was there for arraignment, and, you know, working with the DA and the magistrate. He's on a 3-month probation, and he clearly understands now that he cannot park the tow truck on the property. And, you know, it took him some time to come to that realization, but he's crystal clear on that now. We had a, you know, very
Sure.
direct and personal conversation, and he fully understands. And so he's on probation for 3 months.
You know, and once again, I mean, we tried numerous letters back and forth. I mean, nobody wants an 18-wheeler to be on a street, you know, parked at night and all that, so. But, you know, sometimes we have to take action, but before that, we tried very hard between the police department, yourself, and all that. And I'm glad now the situation's been resolved.
Yeah, I'm glad to that point too. That was a difficult one because as soon as he leaves, the violation's essentially gone, and then it comes back and it's another violation. So, you know, it takes a proceeding like this to document everything and you know, have the court hearing so that it can't come back again. But you know, it's a time-taking process.
Yep.
One of the other ones was 104 East Main Street. Took some effort, but that's the former Gibbs gas station, and finally reached that owner who's, you know, he's from out of town. He's from in-state, but out of town. And, you know, he put a pretty decent effort into compliance after we reached him. Took us several notices, but we finally caught his attention.
Right. But once again, though, we had to go after him, you know, so until, it took 3 or 4 letters, telephone calls, in that area, you know, was starting to look really deplorable, so.
Yeah, and
we
most-
did a nice job on that.
Thank you. And the ones that come to conversation are typically the ones that ignore us. There's a number that we send out notice, and they take care of it more or less right away, so it's not something that comes up in a report or a conversation, or it's at least not highlighted in something like that.
Yeah. You know, in most cases, John, I think we all know that it's not a case where a poor person's disabled, doesn't have any money, lost their jobs. A lot of times, these people can afford to, you know, clean it up, and that's a problem all the time.
Most times they can, and we'll work with them you know, if they can put some effort into it. It's, you know, complete ignorance of it it just means that they don't care, and they're not trying to resolve the issue. They're recognizing it and not trying to resolve it.
The report dated September 8th, can you go over some of those items? The big one, do you want it?
Yeah, I didn't bring the report.
Okay.
That was just my monthly.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think there's a lot of actions in there, you can probably go over some of those.
Yeah,
What I noticed, a lot of nuisances, probably like about 25 cases where debris, junk, all that stuff.
yeah, there are a lot of those violations, but to the point I was trying to make earlier, that many of these resolve themselves quickly, within a few weeks. So what I've been doing is putting together a monthly report of all the nuisance complaints that were generated for that month and what their status is, whether they're still open or closed, or, in some cases with some notes on what our resolution attempts have been with the people.
Bill, did you have a question while John's going through that stuff?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to commend you for some of the work that you've done in terms of trying to get to the nuisance properties. I've seen the reports, and one of the things that might help me is the status of open and close. I wonder if you could help me understand what it means to be open or closed, and what it takes to close a nuisance property complaint.
Well, to be closed, it needs to be in compliance. Either they need to have cleaned up whatever was, in our opinion, a violation, or it was an unfounded complaint.
Okay. So the reason why I ask is, one that comes to mind was one that was on the radio today, 200 Congress Street shows closed. Is that a mistake?
That's a mistake. That's been changed to open. The original complaint that we understood was about the large boat that's on the property. There's a large shrink wrap boat. I had included some photos. That's not a violation of the nuisance bylaw. It's a big, large ocean-going boat that is on boat stands or paddles, however they refer to them, and it's shrink wrapped. But that's not a violation, and that's, my quick conversations with town council as to whether or not he felt that it was, and he didn't. Likewise, there's some other debris on the property that's not a violation. There's a small pile, medium-sized pile of logs in the front yard next to the driveway, which doesn't constitute a violation. There's a small stack of presumably construction materials that are right by the front door that, appear like they're going to be used.
But there are open issues that need to be resolved, and
Yeah, and then as we go
so
forward,
this was a mistake. It should be open.
yes.
Do you have, I wonder if it'd be possible that you don't have to have it with you, because there's no way you can anticipate the questions. I noticed this is a monthly report, right, as you had indicated, but I'm just wondering, it would be helpful, I think, as the board members get called, if we could get a list of all the open complaints. So those that you're actively
absolutely.
working and pursuing, that way we'd know, and maybe ask for a status update, as opposed to passing on what we think is a first complaint. We have no idea and don't know whether you're still in the process of pursuing its closure. For example, in this one, we've talked about 12 West Street, but it's not on this list because it wasn't open.
Because it was open, so it was probably on a prior list, but that's
Right.
not helping you unless you're putting all the lists together.
Exactly,
Sure. Yeah.
exactly. So if we
Yeah,
could
we
get a
can- we
list
can
of
run that,
open ones, that would be helpful.
Are you thinking monthly or weekly or bi-weekly? Because it's a simple printout for me.
Yeah.
So whatever works.
Yeah, I'd say monthly is probably, I don't know, any of the board members feel strongly one way or another?
You can start with
What do you think
monthly and.
could give us the most
Monthly would make the
information?
most sense.
Yeah, monthly seems to make sense.
Okay. But to continue on that Carter Street property, those were the items that we had gotten some complaints about that are not a violation. When you look further in the property, there's a small metal shed that probably came from Sears 40 years ago that's falling down, that's unsafe and needs to be removed. There's boat parts, and there's a dilapidated boat that's, clearly not in working condition, and, as such, being dilapidated is again.
Do they have to be registered? So if I had 3 boats on my property, 2 of them were mine and 1 of them were a friend's, would that be in compliance or not in compliance?
Yeah, as long as they were not dilapidated and basically, seaworthy,
Okay, so the trailers, the boats don't have to be registered, they can be
No.
stored there, and I can store up to how many on my property?
For personal use, it's really not regulated, but at some point, we would look at it as if it were possibly, being used as a business.
I think that property has 2 or 3, right?
It's got one large one, one small one, a little lake type of boat that's dilapidated. And then there's a little smaller boat that's for sale up in the driveway area, near the driveway or just behind the driveway. So yeah, it does have 3.
3 boats, and then I think somebody had mentioned to me some other watercraft skidoo or something else. I was just curious, because I need to be able to clarify when residents call what constitutes too many boats, if they have to be registered, if the trailers have to be registered, if the boats have to be registered, how many they can have, is 3 or 4 or 5 too many? Or is it a gray area?
It's a gray area. We would certainly look
probably
at
clean
how we
up.
thought it was being used, if it was a perfectly fine boat, the only thing that would make it a violation is if we felt it was being used for some sort of commercial purpose. If, you and 3 friends have boats and you have the big yard and want to keep them in there, that's allowed. It's not,
Okay.
it doesn't happen very often, and I don't know if it should be regulated, but the way it reads right now, it's allowed.
Well, I guess that at some count, it's going to force us into some discussion about
Yeah.
whether neighbors want to be the storage area, because at some point, it becomes a boatyard, as much as it is a neighborhood property.
Yeah, and it's difficult because not everybody keeps their yards to the same standards. This particular property is, personally, I wouldn't keep my yard like that. There's a ladder in the backyard. It's not a violation. It's unsightly.
Yep.
And there's
Yeah, and I
no-
don't want to pick that yard.
Yeah.
What I want to do is talk generalization, although properties will tug us into this discussion, right?
Oh,
We're
certainly.
not sitting out there thinking hypotheticals all the time, but they'll pull us into that discussion.
And especially
as you
highly
say.
visible ones.
Yeah,
When the tree
the
falls in the
corner.
forest.
yeah, that's a good point.
Uh,
If
And a
you're
lot of
outdoors.
times, it doesn't take much to resolve the issues, much in terms of effort or money.
Okay.
But Johnny, if there are some areas where it's, a little bit ambiguous, maybe you could give us some
Make
recommendations, we
recommendations.
can look at that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We do this all day, every day. I think, to Bill's point, maybe I need to somehow illustrate more of these situations and what's
Work with the
What's the-
administrator.
done or being done, so that you can see the picture, because, we're living it 5 days a week and
Right.
not realize, what your perspective may be.
Yeah, and as you said, and I think you articulated it pretty well, we all have different standards. And what may prompt a neighbor to call a selectman or your office on one side may not bother the neighbor on the other side. Any one of us could drive by a particular property and say, wow, I wouldn't want to live next to X house. But that's not necessarily the standard. You go specifically to the bylaws.
Yeah.
You look at the town's bylaws, and, where there are the gray areas, as Dino suggested, there will always be gray areas, let's agree on that, but
Agreed.
where there are violations, concerns, and then on top of that, the case of multiple boats in a highly visible neighborhood on a main street, I think we ought to be talking about, what represents a boatyard versus a residential property. And maybe that's a case where, with your office and Jerry's, we could talk about, whether that needs more attention or not. And if
Okay.
there's 4 of those, I don't know.
Yeah, sure, we'll get that
There's more, I don't
information. Sure.
That's the bulk of what we've dealt with, other than, the ones that are showing up as closed, which were, we had a neighbor up on Carp Road call and said, this place has been bothering us for years. Well, when we got there, it really is a violation of our bylaw, which has only been in place for a couple of years. And that resident took care of it within a week.
Sure.
So, we do get a lot of compliance.
No, John, your office is very busy and takes in a lot of money and all that, and you do the best job you can. Just have to be on top of it all the time. And how about the task force? How's that going?
Well, the task force, we haven't actually walked the streets much in the last 3 to 4 weeks because we've been too consumed with this. We've seriously haven't had a free moment. I mean, these violations that have come to us have, taken the priority over, going to look for some. Not that they're any more or less important, but we've had these dumped on our plate, and, we felt we needed to
Yeah.
deal with them.
And I appreciate that, but I would like you to start those. I mean, if you can't do it every week, do it every other week, because I think that's how we try to, be proactive and try to mitigate situations before they become worse,
Oh, it is,
So-
I mean, we haven't got to it, but it remains a
So
priority. We
I
didn't-
want you to start that again, okay, on
Yep,
behalf of the board.
absolutely.
All right, because that's important,
Mhm,
because things can change very quickly,
I agree.
okay?
Thank you.
George, you had a just quick
Does the board
question?
have a position on whether or not the findings of bylaw violations or the task force violations be listed in the public domain through the newspapers, or, I mean, a lot of this work is going unnoticed or unrecognized by the general public, and I was wondering if the board
Yeah.
as a policy would consider having publication media, like with tax delinquents, those appear every once in a while, and
I think the process has always been, George. He
Yeah.
notifies the board, we make it public. But as far as really getting into that, we really haven't done that, But it's something that we could look at.
I think we should consider it
Yeah.
somewhere in the future.
Yeah, okay. But no, Johnny, on the task force, please, start that again.
Okay.
Whenever possible. And if you're busy doing other things, but that's a priority. We have a good team, they go out. And I think as some people see that, because like everything else, most people are reasonable, most people are responsible, they take care of their yards, they care about their neighbors' yards, but some people aren't, especially if they don't live in Milford. So those are the people that we have to watch and try to make sure that if there's something wrong, we get on it right away, because otherwise it becomes a tremendous nuisance over 6, 8 months, whatever,
Mhm.
okay?
Will do.
Yeah.
Dean, I just want to reiterate what you just said. It's vital to the town that the task force meetings continue and go on, in my opinion, and for all the reasons Dean articulated. In addition to that, this is an area where we ought to be hitting on all cylinders, especially when we consider the fact that we're not in a building boom, right? So, if we look back 8 years or so, some period of time when the building inspection department was just flat out with new construction activities, this may have slipped a little bit, but right now in our current state, I'd expect that those task force meetings go on regularly, and just wanted to reiterate Dean's comments.
Brian, anything else? Go ahead.
Got the first spot for your task force to go hit.
I'm all ears.
We got an email from an individual at, I think it's 17 Draper Park, and he's emailed us in the past, and, it's that, 38, 40, 42 Bancroft Ave, and I know you've been there before, and we've had a lot of issues, but, his email touches on all of those issues: police, fire, building, and, there's a number of issues about some of these houses, between noise, not working smoke detectors, and some other things. So we've gotten emails from this individual in the past, and there's no question that that's an area that really needs to focus on. So if you can get out there and touch base, I'm sure this individual will be very pleased to see that. And, it's very funny. Just keep up the good work, It's like the little kid with the finger in the dike, you plug a hole here and another one pops out there. So, we understand that. But, as Bill and Dino said, the only way to tackle it is to be diligent, one issue, one problem at a time, and then move on. But, not that everything is perfect and it looks wonderful, but I think you've made some real good progress and cleaned up some real problem areas and made a real significant positive difference so far with the work that you've done.
Thank you.
No question, John, And by walking around, a lot of times the residents outside, you talk to residents, they ask you questions, it's education process, and they may make you aware of a situation. So
Mhm.
please, continue that. We appreciate all the good work, as the board has said. And we'll have you in November again for another report, okay?
Okay,
Thanks, John.
sounds great.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Hit the streets.
You can- You don't have to go tonight, tomorrow night, all right? Okay. All right. Town Administrator's Report, Rick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been informed by Highway Surveyor Scott Christofouli that all projects applied for under the Winter Rapid Recovery Road Program have been completed. These projects included coal planing and repaving on Beaver Street and Medway Road, West Street and the Highland Street intersection, and on Fountain Street. They also leveled and did chip sealing on Beaver Street and repairing guardrail sections on Cedar Street and Dilla Street. The total cost of these projects is $122,593, for which the town will receive 100% reimbursement. We had an issue with the hot water heater at the senior center last week. It was determined we needed to replace the entire hot water heater. A new system was installed, and there was no interruptions to the activity at the center. We also had 2 leaks in the sprinkler system at the Upper Town Hall. Both of these leaks have been repaired. I'm in the process of having the entire system just inspected to determine the condition of the system, and this may be something we may put on the capital project plan if needed to repair. I was asked to look into the problem with the Main Street streetlights not functioning. We've determined the issue is a broken PVC underground pipe on Main Street near Middle School East. We will be correcting this problem by removing the concrete sidewalk above the broken PVC pipe, repairing that pipe, and supplying wiring and installing new conductors for lighting and plug circuits. Work should begin probably this week or certainly next week, and it should not take that long to complete, and that should resolve that issue with the streetlights. We're also going to look into LED lights for those lights on Main Street. I was asked by the chairman to look into an issue with House Bill 4181. This is a bill that promotes economic growth across the Commonwealth. However, it contains 2 sections that would loosen municipal zoning control by allowing wireless facilities to build within cities and towns with little restriction. Municipalities would no longer have control over where these towers, antennae, and other equipment are installed. I've spoken with Representative Fernandez, and he has written a strong letter to the members of the conference committee considering this bill, expressing his concern for its impact on local communities. He will continue to update the town on the progress of the bill. As the board knows, the special town meeting is now scheduled for Monday, October 20 at 7:30 p.m. The board will be reviewing and hopefully approving the final warrant tonight. The members of the financial team will be meeting this week to review funding for the articles and will present a report to the Selectmen on October 6th. At that October 6th meeting, the board will hopefully review and discuss the town meeting articles. Louisa Lake Dam, as you know, the board has received a certificate of non-compliance from the Mass Office of Dam Safety. In your informational correspondence tonight is a letter from town engineer requesting an extension of the proposed schedule for repairs to the dam. The original schedule required the town to choose an engineer by August 16th and commence work by August 30th. The final Phase 2 report would be due November 30th. As you know, we intend to put an article on for the October town meeting warrant seeking $100,000 to prepare the Phase 2 report. A revised schedule is included in the letter. Town engineer does not think this will be an issue, that the extension would most certainly be granted, and then once the appropriation is made, we can proceed with the work required.
Rick, on that, let's keep the neighbors, let's keep the residents on Dilla Street informed.
Sure.
Can you have Marty send this letter out to all the residents on Dilla Street?
Sure. I believe I presented the board an additional report from National Grid regarding double poles. They have included the legend that was requested last meeting to help the board track the status of the double pole removals. As to doing an age report for all the reports, they were not confident in their data, so Verizon will be doing a complete survey of all poles in Milford to make sure all of the data is accurate so National Grid can provide an aging report to the board. I am informed that presently there are 55 double poles in Milford. Since the last report, 21 poles have been removed and 1 installed for reliability reasons. One final item, the Highway Department, Scott Christofouli, has informed me he will be redoing the crossworks on Main Street with what he calls stamped asphalt. It is a raised walkway, which will give the appearance of a brick walkway. I believe there are 6 crosswalks on Main Street. Work should begin hopefully this week.
Rick, on that, just make
That's
sure.
all I have.
Just make sure Scotty checks with the Commission on Disability. Okay?
Yes.
Brian, any questions, comments for Rick?
No, I did want to make mention on the National Grid report that it is much improved in terms of allowing us to see exactly what the issue is with the double poles, and it's nice to see the removal dates. And, you know, right now they're talking about 55 double poles, so, I mean, I think that's the best that I can ever remember. So it's nice to see that you're working very closely with National Grid, making some real positive progress with this. I read the correspondence from Vonnie on the dam, and I don't have any other issues
Okay.
with Rick's report.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one point, I just had raised the issue with Main Street lights. I just wanted to thank Mr. Valani for jumping on that. One of the other questions I had is, so that it wasn't up to the board to notify you or give you a call, it appears to be one of those things that may be not specifically assigned to someone, and I was wondering if you had taken the opportunity to assign that out.
Yes, I've
Specifically, so-
discussed issues with street lighting and lighting in general with the town engineer, and she will be the primary responsible party.
Okay.
Obviously, though, I will continue to be involved
Sure.
with her.
Okay, that's helpful. And the raised crosswalk idea, I've seen that in other communities. I think it's Natick that jumps to mind.
Holliston, too, if you've been through Holliston,
Yeah,
I believe
just-
they do it, too.
Really nice look, and if it's not disruptive to the plows, which Scotty wouldn't put in if it were, and if it's not an issue with folks with disabilities, that would be just a great idea. It does make a difference
I think-
aesthetically. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
On old business, the approval of the special town meeting warrant, and like Rick said, we'll discuss these articles on our meeting on October 6th. There a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant as submitted.
Motion by Brian.
And I'll second for discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I think what is incumbent upon everybody who submits articles is to, to do a couple of things. One is to make sure, and this includes us, right, to demonstrate the discipline that we're working within the 5-year plan. And if we're not, how that issue has specifically risen to a level of emergency that might warrant additional attention. There are certainly things that happen that are unplanned, and we understand that. But, I think we have to be as disciplined working within the 5-year plan. That's what the planning process is for, and I think others have. I think it'll spur some discussion in the next discussion, but I'd be happy to second.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, at the last meeting or the meeting before regarding the applications, and I think a lot of our applications have to be looked at, revised, updated, and maybe improved upon. So we all had some comments, and Rick went back and looked at the forms that we had. I think we've all given him some ideas. He discussed the matter with the police chief. And at this time, Rick, want to explain what we've done?
Yes, you have I believe, the form in front of you. We have obviously tried to make it much more detailed, specifically when it comes to entertainment, live entertainment, so that we would know who is the presenter of the live entertainment. Are they DJs, are they bands, how many, how long would they play for, types of instruments, did they request an entertainment license, describing the activities in detail. And then we tried to look towards issues that the chief was concerned with, would be crowd control. What are the measures for security? Is there a police detail being requested? Is there one needed? How will they be checking IDs, for example? How many security personnel will they have on site at any particular time? And then obviously the issue of parking would need to be addressed. Where are you going to park cars? Are you going to be valeting them and moving them from one site or one location to another, for example? That was added to the form. And obviously, if you're going to serve food of any kind, the Board of Health should be involved. We still want to try to keep the process where the relevant department heads are notified so that they can give their input on how this might be affecting their particular department or any recommendations they would make. So the department head review form would be tweaked to be added to this type of form. So again, I want to thank the police chief. He was very, very instrumental in helping put this form together. We're hoping it is more detailed on our part, from our office, from my office, obviously, we will scrutinize these, and then we'll have more information. And I think the board, at some point, if they decided in looking at the form, they needed to bring the particular applicant in, the board could do that at their discretion. So hopefully it's a much more detailed form. If the board has any other input, certainly I would welcome it, and we can revise it or tweak it some more if need be.
Okay, before we go to Brian, Rick, thanks for making it less cramped on 2 pages. I think it's much more legible and gives people a chance to write in. And then we should probably have something like at least 30 days in advance.
We're going to
something like that.
recommend, and depending on the type of event, but, you know, if we could get it 30 days in advance, it obviously gives the department heads ample time to review. It give the board maybe over the course of a meeting or two, so you don't have to schedule it for the next meeting, for example, to maybe look at it. So that would be a recommendation that perhaps we could at least strongly encourage or recommend that we receive a particular application at least 30 days before the event. Obviously, some events may require additional
Okay.
notice.
Brian, any comments, questions?
So, let me see if I understand this. So is this a revised application for the one-day entertainment? Is this what we're, or is this supposed to be like an omnibus? I mean, what's exactly?
It's particularly for the entertainment.
Okay. All right, so this, because I see it geared towards the entertainment.
It is, it most definitely is.
Oh, okay,
Brian.
so I guess it might be redundant, that line in the middle, entertainment license request, yes
Right.
or no?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is in fact going to be the form to request entertainment.
Yes.
When you're in the top section asking about the name of the DJs and bands,
Yep.
I would also request that we add written materials.
Okay.
I mean, they can give me a name of a DJ or band, and I'm not really gonna know a whole lot about it, and I don't know that I feel like searching for stuff, so
Okay.
if they could provide, some more descriptive material about it. I think one of the things that I think might be important for us is whether or not the activity is primarily for charitable purposes or for-profit purposes. And I suppose a line item could be included under the describe the plan activities in detail section. On page 2, where you've got describe the event advertising, I'd ask them to attach,
Okay.
a copy of whatever flyer, posting, whatever it is they're circulating about this particular event. In terms of the crowd control and security measures, I'd like to know the exact number of police details, just like we do with the Portuguese picnic, if it's gonna be 15 police officers, if it's gonna be 1 police officer. I think I need to know that. When we're talking about security personnel, I'd like to know whether or not these are in-house employees, or if the establishment has hired security personnel from a subcontractor. And then also, when you're talking about the parking plan, I would include traffic as well, similar to what we did with the carnival application. So in addition to a parking plan, I want to see a traffic plan also, where the flow of vehicles is going to be and not be. And then, of course, you've got the sign-off, and even though you've increased the lineage, it might be nice to put at the top or maybe at the bottom that folks can use additional sheets as necessary. But, very nice job putting this together, and, certainly, comprehensive in terms of, I think, what people's requests might be.
Thank you. Bill?
I just appreciate you and the chief working on this. I think it gets to the root of some of our challenges at the last event at the Tradesman, and I think this would help us a great deal. I would encourage the 30-day requirement, simply because somebody doesn't put an event like this together, order tickets, put out flyers and posters, and do that, not be detailed enough, in my opinion, without doing some of that planning 30 days ahead. I think that's a minimum burden for a license holder, because I think the people they have to coordinate with are going to be greater than 30 days
I would
most
think so,
often.
that type of event, yes.
So,
Okay.
with the bands and all
Sure.
that.
Okay. All Oh, Rick, under old business, under the decorations, you want to bring that up?
Yes, I think I was asked at the last meeting to consult with town council, town accountant, on what accounts, if any, we could use for the decorations. I did consult with both. They indicated to me that we could use the biomeasure TIF account. The Board of Selectmen would have to vote to use that account. There would be sufficient monies to cover the initial request by the committee. So if the board is so inclined, that would be the place to use right now.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Discussion.
make a motion that we use the biomeasures fund to help get this group kick-started and to help that beautification of Main Street move forward.
okay. so-
I'm hopeful that it's in place before the Veterans Day Parade, and I think it has an opportunity to showcase all the hard work of this committee and what Scott has helped spearhead.
Is there a motion or a second?
I'll second it, and just so I can get an understanding on this, is this, the upfront cost that we talked about, or does this also include the yearly maintenance and the ongoing year to year, or is this just the upfront cost that was presented to us to, get this program off the ground and running?
For me, it represents the upfront costs. We're going to have to look to an ongoing fund in support of future years, but at least to get that process kick-started.
Okay.
So the dollars presented at the last meeting.
Okay, I'll second it.
Yeah, continue to work with Scotty and all that, okay? Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job. Okay, let me see. Under new business Lions Club for Toll Road, October 18th at Route 16 and 109, is there a motion? Move and
I'll
second it?
second that, yeah.
And that's unanimous. We have Mr.
Thank you.
D'Antonio. He writes very nicely. This is for the
Speaking about 30 days.
Sunday, September 28th, 33rd Plains Reunion, and all alcoholic beverages. They have a great meal, and this year the guest speaker is the honorable football coach, John Dagny. Is there a motion?
If I don't make the motion, I'm not gonna be allowed to
I'll second.
participate in the raffle, so, I'll gladly
Move and second it.
make the motion,
That's unanimous.
yeah.
Brian, anything under new business?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Looking forward to the tax classification hearing and just kind of thinking about, what's going on in the community. The thought I have is that, there are some small businesses, I think, that might be feeling a disparate tax bite, and trying to think about ways to help the small businesses. As you know, the dual tax rate has its pluses and its minuses. It affects large businesses as well as small businesses. Certainly, it's a benefit to the residents. But I know that when we go forward in the tax classification process, one of the votes that we take is whether or not to adopt the small commercial exemption. And, I looked in my files because I had requested information on this back in 2002 and also in 2005. And at that time, there were only 4 communities in the state that had it back in '05. Priscilla gave us a nice analysis at that point of what it meant.
Yeah.
At that point, there were 73 out of 409 qualifying parcels. And I pulled out the last report that we did last year, and the small commercial exemption has now gone up to about 10 communities. So, it may not be the answer for our town, but it may be. And what I'd like to ask is to have Priscilla put together a similar type analysis that she did in '05, so that we can get an idea as to how many, first of all, really what the qualifications are, how many small commercial businesses there are that would qualify for that, what the estimated annual tax savings could be, and the impact on the other business class. So I think it'll give us a little bit more information when we go into the tax classification hearing, just to see, you know, if that's an avenue that we can use to try to help some of our small businessmen in the
Sure.
community.
Okay. We'll do that. Bill, new business?
I would add to that, that we look to the IDC to also be copied on any of that material, be given it plenty of time. I know that they've voted and discussed and talked about tax classification in the past. So any information we have that.
Sure. Okay. I just have a couple of
Get that to
items,
them early.
informational items. At the meeting on October 6th, besides reviewing all the articles and reviewing the financial plan, I've asked the chief and the administrator, town engineer, to look at 109, a comprehensive view, and just provide some recommendations as far as traffic. Different, could be little things, could be larger items, but I believe that we'll have some type of presentation on the 6th if they're ready. Also looking at the Gibbs gas station, I think that would be tremendous if the town were able to obtain that through eminent domain. I think Main Street is a tough nut. We have to look at everything. If someone has an idea, it has to be explored, it has to be researched, and then it has to be thought out, and if it makes sense, then we try to do it. So we'll be talking about 109 traffic, the Gibbs station. Also, Vonnie Reese will be in, and she'll be talking about the updates on Milford Pond and also the youth center. And the other day, there was a bad accident right near the bike trail as you approach Friendly's, so I asked for a police report. So this is what's happening when people, you know, proceed very quickly when they go past the lights, and then they have to stop at the bike trail with the blinking lights there. So so this happened the other day, and it was a tough accident. So I think there have been a few accidents recently. So these are the things I think we have to look at, and I think, you know, if we do nothing, that's terrible. But if we start doing something to try to implement some changes and mitigate some of the situations, I think, you know, we'll go a long way. And if we start it now, then, you know, boards in the future can continue doing that. Okay, and the correspondence, we did the building commissioner's report. Mike Nicholson has resigned from the Commission on Disability, and he's on the Finance Committee, and he has to do that because of the bylaws. Mike did a tremendous job, as we know, on the Commission on Disability. He's been there 20 years. The types of things that they did, working with the hospital, working with the companies, working with highway surveyors on the curb cuts, doing everything to remove barriers and to make people's lives in Milford better by trying to eliminate discrimination and whatnot. So he did a tremendous job. It's a tremendous Commission on Disability. They have fine people on there. Harold Rhodes is the new chairman, but I think we should, you know, accept the letter of resignation and also, you know, send Mike a letter of appreciation because of the great work that he did during the past 20 years. So
Absolutely, be
Yeah.
glad to do it. The commission's loss is the FinCom's gain.
yeah, motion by Brian, seconded by Bill. And he also appreciates all the time that we provided to him, coming into meetings. He says whenever they ask for something, the board was always there to support them, so we
He's a very
certainly,
thorough guy.
No question.
And, you know, some of the presentations that he put on back when we were involved with the senior center and the high school field project, I mean, he would, you know, put an architect to shame. And he was very, very important on both of those projects in terms of increasing accessibility and I think making them better projects.
yes. And almost every town in the Commonwealth has a Commission on Disability, but I would wager to say that this is probably one of the, if not the best, the second best in the state. They do great work and they're recognized at the state level. One of the items I forgot to bring up, there was a very interesting article yesterday in the paper. It was about the IT individual in Framingham and all the things that they've done to provide information to the residents. So I'd like to ask Rick to maybe have our IT person speak with her as far as informational, the website, upgrading things, Facebook. I don't know if we have Facebook, but I think that would be an interesting conversation. And I think any information that we can provide the public, I think just makes government work all that better, so if we can do that. And then, Rick, want to take the last one under the informational letter that you sent to the license holders regarding the ADA,
Yes.
regarding,
We received an advisory letter by the Mass Office on Disability, and what they did is just identify forms of identification that the alcoholic beverage licensees may rely on for proof of age, to verify age. And there was a letter that was sent to us with a list of the forms of identification that are reliable, and there are 6 of them listed. And this notice was sent to each and every license holder, all alcohol license holders in the town of Milford. So they have been properly notified, and again, the list of license requirements are there: a driver's license, a liquor identification card, a mass ID card, passport by U.S. government that is officially recognized by the United States, passport card for a passport issued by the United States, and a military ID card. So all these were provided to all our license holders.
okay, that's, very important. We don't certainly want discrimination, people being asked what type of disability that you have, so continue to work on that, so it'll clear up any ambiguity, okay?
Yes.
Brian, anything else on the?
No, I'm all set,
Billy?
thank you.
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay, we do have one item for collective bargaining with Attorney Petnari. We will not be coming back into open session. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
For executive.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Good night.